time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, after a lovely weekend around the state of South Carolina, interrupted by some rain, especially today. Hope everybody's okay from all that. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes with you. Will Pelagic on vacation this week. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Love to hear from you tonight as we crank things up towards the start of football practice next week for the high schools and for the colleges. In fact, I believe high school practice around the state begins on Friday, the 27th, I think is when the high schools can get out. Maybe a day or two off there, but it's coming up very quickly. The colleges next week, the pros going to camp this week in various parts of the country. So looking forward to having all the warriors of the gridiron back with us. We've got plenty to talk about tonight. We'll have more interviews for you from last week's SEC and ACC media days. The ACC voting was announced today, Pro, and no surprise, Clemson, the big favorite to win the ACC for a fourth straight year, receiving 139 of the 148 votes for number one, with Miami getting 5 votes, the second place team. So at least on paper, in the minds of the followers, this looks like a dominant Clemson football team in the ACC again this year.
Especially when they got the front line returning defensively. Some people thought they would have taken a step back, but can't think about that now. And with the offense, Clemson still, whoever's quarterbacking, can have a tremendously potent offense. And now they're going to just continue to turn people over and give that offense a short field as if they needed it.
It's a great combination to have. I mean, that's what you want. You want a great defense with a defensive front that can pressure and stop the run, and then an offense that can score from practically everywhere, and a very deep and talented kicking game in both the kicking respect and the return respect. So they got all the parts, and they got the good coaching. No reason to think that Clemson can't run the table and be right back in the national championship picture once again. And, if you're not a Clemson fan, you have to wonder, when is this run going to end for Clemson? When will the well dry up? And there does not appear to be any of that kind of thing happening in the foreseeable future, because the talent continues to flow in. They continue to recruit well. They continue to pay their coaches extremely well to keep them in place. Now, you got to look at some things in the future. Robbie Caldwell, how much longer is he going to coach? Because, Coach Caldwell is getting a little long in the tooth there. And there's been some talk about retirement around the corner for him. But one thing Dabo Swinney's been able to do, like when he lost Dan Brooks, for example, he's been able to quite successfully replace departing coaches with other very good coaches to keep it rolling.
Well, the key point is, not that Johnson told us once during an interview, and I agree with him. A lot of times people talk about the tremendous talent that a team has, and rightfully so. But at some point, if you're a good football team, you got to have 10 or 12 difference makers. Let's take, for example, this year, Clemson, the Achilles heel could be their secondary. Who cares? Because that front line is going to make sure they don't have too much to worry about. So your difference makers are up front. Now, when these guys get experience, and then Clemson attempts to reload their defensive line, now their defensive backs will be more seasoned, and maybe they help out the new guys who played defensive end and tackle.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but, you look at guys like Mark Fields at a corner. You look at Trayvon Mullen, A.J. Terrell. Those guys have all played a lot of football. You look at the newcomers like Mario Goodrich and Kyler McMichael. You look at the safeties like Muse and Denzel Johnson, Kayvon Wallace. They've all played a lot. Isaiah Simmons, they feel very good about him and what he can do. Nolan Turner. So there's a couple of new names in there, But I think by and large, they feel like they've got talents and they feel like they can play back there. But like you said, if you're a defensive back for Clemson with what should be an outstanding rush in front of you, you're not going to have to cover for very long.
No. And the thing about this defensive line is they're very athletic. If you try to attempt, and Syracuse used the formula once, but it doesn't work too often. NC State is good at it. If you get that ball out quick, then you got a chance, because that doesn't give the defensive line a chance to sack the quarterback. But these guys are good enough that they can stand straight up to go off a block and still tip passes. So this team is tremendous up front.
The poll question for this week on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, how many touchdowns will Deebo Samuel score this season? You know, he was on some kind of pace. The leader in touchdown scores last season in college football had 33 touchdowns. Deebo had, 6 in a little over 3 games last year, I believe. I mean, he was on some kind of pace. Might have led the nation had he been healthy, played all 13 games, stayed at that pace. Obviously, he would have led the nation. So with that in mind and knowing that they're going to get the ball to Deebo Samuel in so many different ways, in the passing attack, in the little toss back behind the line of scrimmage, in the return game, they're going to find as many ways as possible to get the ball in his hands. How many touchdowns does he score? 25 or more? 20 to 25, 15 to 20, 10 to 15, or less than 10. The voting so far reflects kind of a conservative view, 10 to 15 touchdowns for Deebo. I really believe he goes in the 20 to 25 category this year.
Well, the key point is it depends on what defensive coordinators think about when picking their poison. Does it come back to what we see in basketball a lot? Well, whoever beats us is not going to be this guy. We're going to double and triple team him.
But can you afford to do that? Because Brian Edwards is an excellent receiver. Shi Smith has proven he's an excellent receiver. Or Trey Smith is an excellent receiver. And I really think Casey Crosby has a chance to be really special for them at tight end. They've got other weapons they can go to.
Well, therein lies the rub. That's why you have to decide which poison you're going to pick. And let's face it, this year, if he stays healthy the entire year, Deebo's not going to see the kickoff. If anybody's crazy enough to kick him the football, that's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see this. I see Deebo lining up outside. Then on the next play, the defense coordinator is looking over, and the guy in the booth says, wait a minute, he shifted over the slot. What is he doing there? You're going to see him line up at running back at some point and have like a Turner line up in his slot position. They're going to hide him all over the place to see if he can get one-on-one with somebody.
All right, plenty to talk about. 800-956-7266. Give us your thoughts on what you heard last week from SEC and ACC Media Days, what you agree with, what you disagree with, anything else about the upcoming football season, recruiting comments and questions as well, because the recruiting season heating back up a good bit this week. Got a big announcement tomorrow for a player that USC and Clemson have been chasing. Does not look like they're going to get, but he will announce his plans tomorrow, talking about defensive lineman Travon Walker, plus other news this week in terms of basketball and football recruiting. We'll share with you one of USC's top targets has it down to 3, and he has South Carolina on that list. We'll bring that to you as well. Update some other news notes for you. Want to give a quick shout out to a couple of famous football products of our state, Marcus Lattimore and Mike Williams, both of them hosting camps on Saturday for youth in our state, and did a fabulous job having something like over 500 or so kids at their respective camps, just continuing to give back to the state of South Carolina. So nice job, Marcus Lattimore. Nice job there by Mike Williams. I think Alshon Jeffrey also had a camp earlier this year. Did a great job with that too. So we'll make sure we mention that. Tomorrow night, speaking of great jobs, we'll be up with Fisher DeBerry in Greenville, the coaches for charity event. We'll have 8 of the college coaches in the state there in Greenville. We'll be there with them to bring it all to you. And we'll be right back here on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk continues from the ACC kickoff event in Charlotte. We're talking now with offensive tackle from the Clemson Tigers, Mitch Hyatt. Of course, you had yourself a pretty big decision, not unlike
each of them, like trying to strategize.
Sports Talk continues.
Thank you. Differently.
Mitch, good luck this year. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
That decision. We're talking now with offensive tackle from the Clemson Tigers in Charlotte. We're talking now kickoff event in Charlotte. We're talking now with offensive tackle from the Clemson Tigers, Mitch Hyatt. Of course, you had yourself a pretty big decision.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Eight 7266 is the number here on Sports Talk. Lines are open on this Monday afternoon in late July. If you'd like to join us on the program, love to hear from you. Coming up, we'll hear from Clemson offensive tackle Mitch Hyatt, an interview that Will did with him last week in Charlotte. We'll also hear from USC standout defensive end DJ Wanham about getting ready for the upcoming season. By the way, today, the folks with the Butkus Award announced their 51 linebackers on their watch list, 51 in honor of Dick Butkus, who wore number 51. Two of them are Clemson linebackers, Kendall Joseph and Trey Lamar, which is very much on the button for those two, very worthy of that selection. Little surprised that USC's T.J. Brunson wasn't on the list. Went back and looked at his numbers from last year. He had 88 tackles. He had 4.5 tackles for loss. He had 3 sacks. No, I'm sorry. He had three fumble recoveries and like 2.5 sacks, which stands up very favorably to others. I don't know why he was not included on that list, because I certainly think he's one of the best linebackers in the country. And with Sky Moore gone, that means there'll be more room for him to play and make plays. I think you'll see his tackle total well over 100 this season, and he'll be the leader of that defensive unit.
Remember, he was in a heated race with Sky Moore for leading tackler for the season for a while. One of the things we get back to, and I hope we're not getting to this, Corn, but I still see it. Because he was a solid recruit, but not a stellar recruit, some guys still don't know who he is. It's just like DJ Wanham was something like, what, 4th or 5th tackles for losses in the SEC last year, and nobody still knows him because he wasn't that stellar. See, something has to be done. These guys got to throw those recruiting ratings out once a guy hits the field and shows he can play the part.
Just getting some very sad news out of Clemson. Just moments ago, they announced that Barbara Kennedy Dixon passed away this morning.
Oh, my goodness.
After battling cancer. 58 years old, two-time All-American, three-time first-team All-ACC selection, two-time ACC tournament MVP, and 31 years as part of the Clemson Athletic Department as a coach or an administrator, inducted in the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame in '89 and the Clemson Ring of Honor in 2000. Wow. Ooh. Sorry to hear that news. And she was a great basketball player back in her day when, let's face it, the level of women's basketball was not all that great. She really shined. Terrific athlete with size and a dominant player. So very sad to hear that news tonight coming out of Clemson, the passing at the age of 58 of Barbara Kennedy Dixon. Now, the ACC media voting was announced today from ACC Media Days last week. Clemson received 139 of the vote cast. 148 votes were cast. This is for the championship. Miami got 5, NC State 2, Florida State 1, and Virginia Tech 1. I really think that Clemson, that people are underselling Florida State. I think you've got to be worried about Florida State, at least offensively, because they've got a good quarterback situation with a healthy Francois and then a sophomore in Will Blackman, who, as you pointed out, was hit more than any other quarterback in the country, I think, last year. The guy was really roughed up by a poor performing offensive line, but he learned through that and he survived it. It's going to make him a better quarterback, but they still have weapons. I mean, they've got Cam Akers back. They've got Jacques Patrick back. And they've got another hot shot running back coming into the program. And Willie Taggart is a guy with a very sharp offensive mind and game plan. I think you got to fear Florida State more here than people are giving them credit.
I agree with you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I would agree with you, because if I would tell anybody to judge Florida State, judge them by what you see when they played Miami off their feet down in Miami, only to lose, I think, on a touchdown in less than with less than a minute to go. So a lot of times when Florida State hit the skids last year, injuries and what have you, I think some of the team, they won't say it, but I think at times they played disinterested. Like, they had a monkey on their back or something. But against Miami, they woke up and said, look, now we've lollygagged through this season, but we're not going to let Miami just beat us. In fact, we're going to take their scalp before we leave here. And they darn near did it.
Yeah. Well, I say keep an eye on Florida State. They could prove me wrong, but I think they could be a problem for a lot of teams this season. So back to the voting. In the Atlantic Division, it's Clemson, Florida State, NC State, Boston College, Louisville. Boy, how quickly they are losing respect. Here again, their new quarterback, Jawan Pass, was a guy coming out of Georgia, heralded, but they lost other key people, and they lost some good defensive backs and receivers, et cetera. And their offense was so much built around Lamar Jackson. You wonder just how much they can rebound. But we've seen it a lot, Pro. You lose a great player who was the heart and soul and the face of your program to graduation, and somehow, some way, the team picks it up the next year and excels.
Yeah, and whoever plays quarterback, Jackson is one of those once-in-a-lifetime athletes playing the quarterback position. But you got to give him credit, even if you have to gnash your teeth, that somehow Bobby Petrino always comes up with an offense that scares you to death.
Yeah, if he weren't such a jerk, he would be given a lot more respect. But he is a jerk, has been a jerk, and will probably go down as a jerk to the end of his days. But he can coach offense, I'll give you that. Wake Forest in the 6 hole and Syracuse 7 in the voting in the Atlantic Division. In the Coastal Division, Miami gets the nod over there. And we'll talk more about Mark Richt coming up in a little bit out of a story from his days at Georgia that's quite interesting. Virginia Tech picks second, then Georgia Tech, Duke, Pitt, North Carolina, and Virginia, rounding it out in the Coastal. Now, tomorrow they will announce from the ACC their preseason all ACC teams in terms of the individual players and the accolades and all that sort of stuff. So there you go with the preseason all ACC team. Let's jump to the phones. We'll give you some more news notes coming up in a little bit. Recruiting coming up as well. And interview with Clemson's Mitch Hyatt coming up as well. Good time of the night and good time of the week to welcome in to Sports Talk, the de facto mayor of the city of Charleston, the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies. I hear more crying coming up here pretty soon with the NFL season around the corner, and the one person who broke the bridge in Charleston, causing all those delays on I-526. He broke it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Jim Rome, it is Jay Rome.
Hey, Phil. I just got a couple of hot takes for you and Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I saw your baby boy at that golf tournament, that celebrity golf tournament. He looked like he's ready to tear it up this year now.
Now, who is this?
Looks like he's in pretty good shape.
Who is this?
Who is this? Aaron Rodgers. That's
okay.
my quarterback, as Terrell always will say.
I do not disagree that Aaron Rodgers is set to tear it up this year. Absolutely. Going to get a new contract, will make him the highest paid player in the NFL, I do believe.
One more story. Did you happen to catch Mike Williams' prediction? I've been saving this for a couple of days just for you. He said Clemson's going to win the national championship, no doubts about it. So tell Hart his feet are safe for another year.
Well, I mean, it's hard to dispute what he's saying now. I mean, when you say no doubt about it, there's some other schools in there who will have something to say about it, but it's hard to think Clemson won't be there at the end, at least having a shot at it.
They're going to win it all. He says there's no doubt. They are going to win it all.
All right, hang on. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Don't forget you can stay with us if you lose us over the airwaves, which we hope you won't do. But if you do, you can pick us up, of course, a variety of ways. We stream our show on Periscope, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Great way to pick us up and listen to us over your phone or your laptop, over your iPad, whatever you've got. That's a great way to get us. And, of course, on the TuneIn app, several of our stations are there, including our Columbia affiliates. The Point Radio, which does not preempt us, so it's a great way to stay with us. If you want to do that, if you lose us for whatever reason, that's what we suggest that you do. Back to Jerome, because by contract, he has to have at least 3 minutes of airtime when he does get through. So I don't want to violate the contract that we have with him over these many, many years. So you got about 45 more seconds there, big guy.
Hey, I'm glad for any time I get to vent because they're trying to silence me. And I'm never more sure about that than I was today because I think there's something in the works where they're trying to silence me here on the local.
Now, they would be, you got to be a little more specific. When you say they, that's pretty broad. Who are you referring to?
Well, I can't reveal the identity of that person, but they knew who they are. Hey, well, all I can say was Mike Williams at his camp last week predicted Clemson was going to win the whole thing, and he has no doubts about it. Now, and he said, "Hey, I'm just trying to get better because he looks like he's ready to roll with the Chargers this year." So we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's going to have. Don't see why he won't have a good year. And, listen, what he was doing there was giving back to the community, and that's great. And then people, of course, are going to ask him. And he gave his opinion about what he thinks Clemson will do, and I think that's absolutely fine. Fine. Give me a reason. Give me a reason to disagree with him. Give us a reason to disagree.
No, Jerome, I
know they're really excited about the defense.
Well, that defensive front.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Williams.
I think that's more the reason.
My question would have been not who wins it. I say, who's going to be taking the snaps when they win it? I'll ask him that question.
That remains to be seen. Thank you, J. Rome. Good hearing from you. Your 3 minutes are up, and we have kept to our word, contractually speaking. Who will be that quarterback? That is the intriguing question going into camp at Clemson. You would think that there wouldn't be a question because you've got a guy that started every game last year and won you an ACC championship and got you to the national semifinals and is back after going through another offseason of workouts. But when you have the highly touted, highly talked about, highly publicized, highly hyped freshman quarterback with a lot of flair coming in, people are going to wonder. And it's just not at the Clemson camp. This is happening in other places around the country. You can hear scuttlebutt, of course, at Alabama, where it's very strong. You can even hear a little bit of scuttlebutt out of Georgia, where people are – Jake Fromm, of course, has broken his left hand. He should be fine. It shouldn't be a problem. But they've got a very talented, highly touted, 5-star this, that, and the other quarterback waiting in the wings. You wonder about that if Georgia is going to find some time for him. Yeah, you got to – and, of course, now with the new rules, they can run – Fields out there up to 4 times and preserve his year as a true freshman, and because of the rule allowing you to play 4 games before a redshirt has to be decided. Let's just say, there's certain games you run him out there, and either he's not ready, or even if he is ready, and Fromm is lighting it up still and playing at a very high level, you sit the other guy down. You save that year of eligibility.
You save the year of eligibility. But you open up Pandora's box. I'll tell you, I remember when Mike Fratello was coaching the Atlanta Hawks, and they picked up Spud Webb off waivers from the Detroit Pistons. And there were guys giving him some advice. They said, look, don't play him. Because once the crowd sees him, you won't be able to cut him. Now, if Fields comes in the game and lights it up, and then you say, well, we're going to put the red shirt. Wait a minute. The crowd will be screaming, don't put the red shirt back on. So sometimes, you know, you want to give a guy a little bit of juice, give him some playing time, but those fans start to, and the worst fans are the loudest ones because they don't know what you're trying to do. So the educated fan knows what you're doing.
Well, I really think that in Dabo Sweeney's mind, the only people talking about this and worried about it are the media and some fans. I mean, it's a problem he's happy to have.
Yeah.
Because his solution is simple, as it is for every coach, or it should be. The best player who shows it in practice is the one that's going to play. They will solve it themselves. If you make this decision based on public pressure or, you know, what you're hearing out there, then it's likely going to blow up in your face. You have to make the decision based on what you see in practice every day, and you go by your knowledge and your instinct and sometimes your gut and say, this is going to be the guy. And if that means even putting a freshman in over a proven senior who's been devoted to the program and all that for the good of the program to give you that chance to reach the level you should reach this year, then you got to do it. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Lawrence, you know, rising above and taking the job from Bryant. As you heard Cleveland Farrell say last week from ACC Media Days, he said Bryant was the best quarterback in spring, and it wasn't close, which kind of contradicts what the coaches have been saying. And now there's coach speak and there's truth. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what we have here. Were we getting coach speak to keep everybody interested and not transferring and holding on until the fall? Were we getting coach speak from them, or were we getting truth when they said it was very tight? You know, not much of a difference between the two. That the players would understand if a younger guy took over, because they, as Tony Elliott said, players want to be with players. They want to, you know, they got a chance to win a championship. They want the best guy in there. So the locker room situation at Clemson will be one that will be very interesting, and something you got to kind of, I don't know if you handle it with kid gloves or you just come right in like with a tank and say, you know, this is the way it's going to be, get behind it or get left behind.
Well, I think you can't do it with a tank because you want everybody on the same page and get to agreeing what they're doing. One of the best example I've seen years ago, and I know a lot of people weren't even born when it happened, but please bear with me. You remember when UCLA had Larry Brown as coach, and the old players, he played them because, look, they've been loyal to UCLA. And then they made the Final Four because Larry Brown said, hold it. You know, these hot shot freshmen are a little bit better than the guys that's been here a long time. And he just benched them and played the young guys. And those guys took UCLA to the Final Four. They lost to Louisville, but at least UCLA got back to the Final Four. So there's one where a coach said, hold it. I'm out to play the best players, and they happen to be my first-year guy.
Speaking of Clemson, don't know if you saw this. You know, things come up on the internet. Some things maybe you don't want out there, but they had their ladies' clinic over the weekend, and some pictures popped up on the internet, in particular a video of Christian Wilkins kind of doing a
non-Christian thing.
Well, close to a pole dance kind of thing with a female, a older looking female Clemson fan who's sitting on a chair. They're in Little John Coliseum. I'm looking at it here once again, and he's walking around her slowly, and he's caressing her arms, and she's reaching back and kind of touching him, and he rips off his shirt. And of course, I'm sure the place is going wild. And then he jumps down on the floor and does like some belly flop push-ups in front of her. This thing got kind of sensual, to be quite honest with you. And, you know, he kind of gives her a belly rub, and she kind of puts her arms around him. I mean, the kind of thing that you might pay $25 for in particular clubs. Almost your basic lap dance.
In other words, the women didn't make it rain, though, did they?
I don't know, but this thing, and I mean, it's being viewed in the public out there by, I'm sure, thousands of women who were there, but it hit I'm not sure this is the kind of image that Clemson wants to put out there about its football team, even though it was a fun time for the women's clinic. Your thoughts on that and more coming up.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, recruiting coming up in just a couple of minutes here on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266 to Tiger Bryan up in Lancaster. We go next here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Tiger Bryan. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How y'all doing?
Terrific. Every day we get closer to football is a good day.
It is. Y'all staying dry down there, I hope, because it's been a monsoon up here in Lancaster, buddy.
Yes, sir. We gotten a bunch here in the Midlands.
Hey, I just got a comment on this Wilkinson young man. Doesn't he? Hey, does anybody can tell him, say, look, everything you do on and off the field. You know, last year he was grabbing crotches in the football games, and he's doing this. Don't you think that's going to hurt his stock in the NFL draft? I mean, if I was looking at him as a pro team, I'd say, look, what kind of character this guy got? I mean, I'm a Clemson man. I mean, he's a heck of a ball player, but you can be a clown so much. But
did you see the video that I'm referring to?
Yes, I did.
So, I mean, first of all, what he did on the field that caught everybody's attention was something that he did from a spontaneity standpoint, right there in the spur of the moment kind of thing. This was he's doing it in front of coaches and officials and whoever else happens to be there. I mean, they condone this. This was okay.
Well,
and I'm not sitting here in judgment because I wasn't there. I'm only seeing a video, and I don't know how Clemson people or other people look at this and react to it. I kind of thought it was a little bit over the top, to be honest with you. I thought it was maybe a little more suggestive than you want to have in a setting like that. I'm sure there were young girls in the audience as well with their moms. Now, maybe everybody there in Clemson they were laughing about it and just, no big deal and all that. But there's probably other people who are just neutral who see this thing and go, what's Clemson doing here with their women's clinic? I thought it was a bit too suggestive and I'm not trying to be a stiff shirt here or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, I can be as crazy as the next guy, but we're talking about a public setting here in a public university with one of the best football players in the country. And I don't know if he went off on his own and did this or it was suggested to him or it was part of a plan,
Well, I hope they didn't one of our coaching staff suggest him to go out and do that because I was dang embarrassed. I mean, because that's, you can have fun, like you said, but,
Well, the only thing I wanted to check is see if the woman was sitting in the chair, did she have a flask in her pocketbook?
Like you said, or was she writing hundreds on it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad she didn't slip a dollar bill into whatever he was wearing there. I'm telling you.
Well, I might go down there and bet it flop a little bit, dance a little bit.
That's an image we just don't want to see. That's just something we don't want to see.
Y'all have a great night. Y'all always do a good job. I enjoy listening.
Well, thank you very much. What do you think, folks? 800-956-7266. Is it anything that Clemson should be held accountable for, or is it just nothing? Is it just, just having fun in front of a bunch of women and just cutting up, and the women weren't embarrassed by it, weren't taken back by it? I'd like to get your feedback. 800-956-7266 if you want to comment on that here on Sports Talk. A couple of other notes, and then we'll get to some of the recruiting for tonight. Former Clemson defensive end Kevin Dodd did not report yesterday with the Tennessee Titans when they opened their camp. Now, he's been dealing with a foot injury since he's been in the league, missed all of the voluntary offseason workouts. He was at the mandatory mini camp. He played in 9 games last year. His rookie season, 2016, he was placed on IR with that foot injury. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. A preseason FCS ranking from College Football America, and Wofford checks in at number 11, and Furman checks in at number 20. Top 5, pretty much the same we hear every year. North Dakota State, James Madison, South Dakota State, Sam Houston, and Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is come a long way in a hurry with their football program. They haven't been around too long. Over the weekend, South Carolina State put out a release about several new coaches joining Buddy Pugh's staff, including 3 former USC players. A couple of them we really already knew about being there. Nashawn Goddard coaching the offensive line, Bennett Swigert coaching quarterbacks and handling the offense. The newest one is Corey Jenkins going to South Carolina State to coach tight ends and fullbacks with the Bulldogs. So Buddy Pugh, who they say, everywhere I go, it says it's his last year, except Buddy doesn't say that. I mean, when you ask him, and we'll see him tomorrow night, probably have him on the show, and we'll ask him again. I mean, what he has said before is we'll see. You know, he wants to break Willie Jeffries' all-time wins record there at South Carolina State, and he's positioned to do that this year if they have a good enough season.
Now, if he sneaks up and wins the MEAC crown, would they actually open the door for him?
I know, but I don't know if they're going to be good enough to do that. I mean, they struggle big time. Their offense has really gone down, and you lose Darius Leonard off that defense, the heart and soul of the defense.
It'll be tough.
Yeah.
It'll be tough.
The SEC announced today that South Carolina will host Baylor December 2nd as part of the SEC Big 12 Women's Basketball Challenge. And that'll be a good matchup for Dawn Staley's team in Columbia. The Hornets officially announced today the signing of Tony Parker to their roster. 55 games with San Antonio last year. You're not going to get the Tony Parker of old here. No, you're just going to get an old Tony Parker.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. And you don't have Tim Duncan in there to sort of help things out. 7 points, 3.5 assists, 19.5 minutes per game last year from Tony Parker. What can they hope to get out of him?
You hope to instruct their younger point guards. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he may have those flashes of brilliance on 1 or 2 given nights, but to expect him to do the miracle thing, especially with his rash of injuries the last few seasons, he's not going to be able to do it.
17 years in the league. Wow. A lot of miles on those legs. All right, to football recruiting we go. Cornerback Cam Smith of Westwood tells us he's down to USC, Georgia, Tennessee. So North Carolina, Wake Forest, and Florida State were on his list. No more. Remains on course to announce August 17th. Has taken an unofficial to Tennessee, camped at USC and Georgia. All 3 remain in touch, including Will Muschamp, Travaris Robinson from USC. He's going to announce on the 17th, but he'll take official visits to all 3 schools in October and November. So the commitment's not exactly going to end things at this particular time. He said he might go to USC this weekend. You know, the dead period ends on Wednesday, so a lot of kids are trying to get out and get final visits in before they get to practice. No favorite among the 3. USC and Clemson in contention for defensive lineman Trevon Walker of Thomaston, Georgia. He announces tomorrow on TV in Atlanta. You can pretty much guess he's announcing for if he's doing it on TV in Atlanta. Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, the other 3 on his list, and indications are strong for Georgia. Georgia having a big run in state here recently. Offensive lineman Will Putnam of Tampa named the top 5 of Clemson, Florida State, Georgia, Auburn, and Florida. One-time Clemson target, defensive back Cameron Kelly of Chesapeake, Virginia, decommitted from Virginia Tech over the weekend. Clemson was on his short list before he committed. He also had an offer from USC. This is the young man who says he doesn't do interviews, so we don't know what he's thinking. Clemson target defensive lineman Enoch Jackson will make his announcement August 5th. He's down to Clemson, Texas Tech, and Arkansas. Plans to be at Clemson Friday for the cookout. 2020 defensive lineman Jamil Burrows of Powder Springs, Georgia, told Rivals he's down to Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama. He'll announce August 25th. First Baptist running back Michael Dukes, also a basketball prospect, landed his first basketball offer from IUPUI. Can you name who that is?
Uipui.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis.
Uipui. That's what
he had planned to focus on football in college, but he said last night he's not sure about that now because basketball is back in his mind. He actually returned to his AAU team this summer after originally planning to skip the summer season. He did take an unofficial visit to USC in June. He continues to hear from the Gamecocks. And a couple of more basketball offers out from Clemson. Tell you about that and more when we come back.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Send him home, Doc. We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut and Professor Tom Hayes. Will Pelagic has the week off on vacation. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Talking about a lot of things here tonight on Sports Talk. Love to have your input. Mitch Hyatt, Clemson's outstanding left tackle, came back for his senior year. We'll hear from him coming up. DJ Wanham of the Gamecocks looking to have a big year and increase his standing in terms of the NFL draft. We'll hear from him as well from SEC Media Days. Got all that coming your way here tonight on Sports Talk. And a reminder, tomorrow night we'll be up in Greenville. We'll be at the Coaches for Charity event put on by Fisher DeBerry. This is always a lot of fun. It brings together 8 coaches from across the states, including Will Muschamp, Dabo Sweeney, Brent Thompson, Buddy Pugh, Clay Hines, Josh Conklin. Is that 8? How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It brings together 6 coaches from across the state. I miscounted. That's a good group, half dozen. You're not going to get them all together at one time like this any other time of the year, I don't think. And so we'll be there. We'll try and do as many live interviews as we can. If we have to do some interviews off the air and bring that to you, we'll do that as well. And this is going to be at the where's this going to be? It's going to be at, I want to say that it's at the Civic Center there in Greenville. Is it called TD Ameritrade? Seems like TD Ameritrade. Yeah, TD Convention Center there in Greenville. Off of 291, I believe, is where that's located. So we'll be there for that tomorrow night. Look forward to bringing that to you here on Sports Talk, because that's what we do here on a regular basis. 800-956-7266. Back the phones. And it is Cockett right here in Columbia. Good evening, Cockett. How are you?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I couldn't be finer if I weren't in Carolina.
I'll tell you this right here. You know, you seem to be the talk of the town in other cities that I'll be calling that. Everybody says you like the governor or the minister when it comes to sports talk and recruiting. So they told me that they respect your professionalism, and hope one day they will see you on ESPN college recruiting one day. So I just want to throw that out there to you, Phil. But
well, thank you.
I look at yes, sir. Well, I look at this. This Danny Hayes. I think he's a genius when it comes to draft picking. But we're about maybe one player for winning the NBA championship. We're looking at maybe trading Khalid to LA for first and second round pick. That's the talk in Boston. And but I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Khalid's going to accept a max deal, or maybe he may not resign with the Celtics. So that's a concern for Danny Hayes. But I like the kid that we may be getting out of Dallas Mavericks, the big center, power forward, about 6'9", 6'10". I think we might get him. He's on a free agent block. But I just want to get your opinion on those Celtics. And then I'm looking at the schedule of my Gamecocks. There's no excuse whatsoever. When you look at the defense, we know it's supposed to be stud. The offense line is a question. You know the quarterback can play pretty good when he's hot. I was coming down to these 6 games, 3 at home, 1 or 2 on the road. I can see Carolina winning 6. Or become 5-0 2018, and then after that, I can say I put it right around 11 wins with a bowl game, and that's including beating Clemson and the Gators.
No,
that's all I got to say. Yeah.
Cockett, feeling pretty cocky tonight. He's feeling He's feeling his oats about the Gamecocks.
He hasn't been dancing around a chair, has he?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, first of all, Kyrie does not want to play with LeBron again.
Exactly.
There would be no
of course,
trade.
he has no say in that.
Yeah.
He can't stop a trade.
Well, let's go to the edict. Boston and LA never trade with each other. Never. Can you remember any time in the history of both franchises that they've actually cut a deal with each other?
I don't think so.
That's my point.
Not that I can recall. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't want to go where LeBron is. He's already done that. And, you know, the talk has been he wants to go to New York, play for the Knicks after one more season with the Celtics. I'm sure that's not what Danny Ainge had in mind when he made the trade with Cleveland to get him and shipped out a bunch of players and got some other players, but primarily Kyrie Irving. I got to think that they're going to figure out a way to get him signed to a long-term contract. Why would you want to leave Boston for New York? I mean, Madison Square Garden and all that aside, you got a chance to win multiple rings here in the next few years with the Celtics because they're still very young. Gordon Hayward coming to you this year is like getting a first round. It's like getting a lottery pick.
Boy, it's scary though. With that injury, does he still have the quickness and adroitness he had before the injury?
Well, the videos that are out there of him working out are very positive right now. Very
also,
positive.
Cocky talked about the Celtics looking at any free agent. If they're looking at any free agent who's out there from Texas, it would be Capella. It wouldn't be anybody from Dallas.
Who wants anybody from Dallas? I mean, who's on? I mean, you know, they've got nothing left in that organization, do they? That's any good?
They have a few young players, but nobody that you want.
All right, thank you very much. 800-956-7266. And just looking at our Twitter feed, I mean, pictures are flying in from everywhere about this women's clinic at Clemson. I don't know. I mean, they got to cringe at this. This is not the Clemson image that they portray. And I'm serious. Why? Again, I know it's all in fun, air quotes, and in the spirit of having a good time. But, well, you look at it. If you haven't seen it, you look at it and you be, you know, your own judge there.
Well, it's a strange way, but you got to say that when you see that video, everybody stops talking about the quarterback situation.
At least for
now.
now.
All of a sudden, yeah.
All right, we go back to the phones, 800-956-7266. Clark in Greenwood, good evening. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I think Cockett has had too many cocktails at 7 o'clock tonight. If he thinks Carolina's going to win 11 games, especially go up and beat Clemson in late November. You know, I mean, I just don't see that happening.
Well, you know, there's a
I think Carolina may win 8 or 9 games, and go to a good bowl game.
I think they can be sitting, to be honest with you, when they go up to Clemson in November, I think they can be sitting on 9. I think they can be at 9 wins by then. When you look at the road ahead for them, I think that the road games are mostly winnable. And we're talking about now, you got to play good football. I'm not saying they're just going to line up and roll over people. They're not going to be that kind of a team.
Well, if you look
but they're good enough to beat most of their teams if they play good football.
Yeah, and if you look at last season, the 2 games they tripped up on that they had no business doing was when Debo got hurt against Kentucky, and the game they had a 10-point lead in at Texas A&M.
Hey, Phil, how do you I want to hear you on pros. I want to break down Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence, arm strength, running, and I'll let you go on that. And who you think's going to get it?
All right. Thank you very much. Boy, that's maybe the toughest question that we'll get all preseason. I mean, trying to compare and contrast because, I mean, most of us haven't seen Trevor Lawrence except in the spring game when he looked exceptional, but that was spring game conditions. We have seen a full season of Kelly Bryant. I mean, Kelly Bryant for 90% of last year, 95% of last year looked fantastic. I mean, he really did. He threw the ball well. He threw the deep ball well. He ran well. He ran when he was supposed to, and he ran the offense well. Can't think of too many times that he hit a bump in the road. I mean, an occasional pick here or there. And, of course, there's the Alabama game that kind of stands out. But facing that defense, who wouldn't have struggled against that? We'll pick back up on that. Good question when we come back here on Sports Talk.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. 800-956-7266 if you'd like to chime in tonight. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Oh, I mentioned those basketball offers from Clemson. 6'5" Dante Allen, Falmouth, Kentucky, has a lot of big-time offers. Louisville, Xavier, Iowa, Oklahoma State, Pitt, Illinois, Florida, Vanderbilt. Also 6'1" Tyrell Jones of Orlando, Auburn, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, Tulane, Southern Miss, VCU, and others. And Blythewood shooting guard Trey Jackson offers from Wofford and USC Upstate. All right, so there you go with that. Remember to check out our recruiting every day, every night on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. From ACC Media Days last week, Will Pelagic sat down with Clemson's outstanding left tackle Mitch Hyatt to talk about coming back to school for a senior year, going after another ring.
You had yourself a pretty big decision, not unlike the mate that you brought here with you, with Cleveland Farrell, having to make the decision to come back to Clemson. What went into that decision to come back?
I mean, I just kind of talked with some people that are close to me, and kind of made it kind of figured that I wasn't wasn't done with school yet, and I just didn't feel like I needed. There's some unfinished business I need to take care of, and just finish up with school were the two big things.
How much was what happened at the end of last year, and how much did that affect your decision?
It did a little bit. It's just it's not nice going out like on a bad note. You want to go out on a good note. You want to go out on top, and so that was kind of like a big thing that like I wanted to finish this year. Let's finish out like on top of with Clemson.
Of course, you know, you guys have tasted the ultimate prize. You've tasted the success that came with his national champion. And then after what happened last year, obviously, how much did that remind you just how tough it is to get to that level?
I mean, it really is tough. It's just because going to the playoffs the past 3 years, how much, like I know how much work it takes to get back to that position and how hard it is. And it's just it takes a lot out of you after a season like that, and then just to know you came up short, and to know that you're gonna have to go back through a whole year's worth of work to get back to where you want to be.
Mitch Hyatt joining us here, offensive tackle of Clemson. Whether it's something that you learned in the evaluation process in the league, or something you learned from your coaches at Clemson, what do you think is the biggest thing going into next year that they've said you had to work on?
I think it's just mainly overall size. They just wanted me to get overall just like bigger, and that was just like the big emphasis for me this year, just hitting the weight room hard this year and just getting bigger.
What are you up to now?
310.
Wow. And as far as just getting bigger, I mean, just is that improving on your bench, deadlift, squats, the whole thing?
Yeah, just getting overall body size bigger without losing any of my foot speed.
And as far as just the kind of the things as you continue to look at this offensive line, you're going to be next to kind of somebody who's a little different, a little newer to the page there with John. And how much have you kind of gotten him to being where he is?
John is a freak athlete. First off, he really is. He's gonna do some special things in the future, and with pertaining to football, he I mean, last year he got some experience. He did great last year. It was great for us, and he and I mean, I think he was ready to step into the role last year, but we had Taylor, who was just a great player, and so I think this year he's going to be able to step in the role and just take that spot of Hearn and just run with it.
Of course, there is a highly publicized competition in a particular position going on right now on your offensive side of the football. What have you seen from each of these guys, whether it's Kelly, whether it's Trevor, and even Chase for a little bit? You know, what have you seen? What have you seen from each of those guys?
Oh, I'm just seeing them show up every day and just work. They work hard in the weight room. For skills and drills, they're working hard, and they even in the spring I just saw them show up every day, and just someone always did something that was very impressive to me. And coach is gonna have a lot of thinking on their hands to do when it comes to fall camp.
when you have somebody who is a true freshman, who's never played a college snap outside of a spring game, how do they take command, and how do you see Trevor take command of the huddle, take command of an offense?
Well, I think with our more veteran group and just everyone just kind of understanding the expectations, I think with anybody that steps in, I think it's going to be known like that leadership is there, and even if he's not like that much that talker, that much of a leader, I think everyone knows like what's got to be done. So everyone's gonna be treating him like he's a leader on the field.
I know that this is something that is mostly left up to coaches, but how much of a decision like that is left not only to someone like you who comes in, as a senior leader and somebody who might very well be a captain this upcoming year and things of that nature? How much of that is talked to you from the coach's standpoint?
I mean, not much. I mean, they're the ones that recruit and bring the players in, and they figure out the lineup. So it's our job just to go out and play. So we just kind of leave it up to them, and we just go and play and do our best.
Talking to Mitch Hyatt, offensive tackle from Clemson. Of the guys you've probably brought in, is there anybody as a freshman who, or even a newcomer, just off the top of your head, who you've kind of taken under your wing and kind of shown the ropes?
Well, we had early enrollee Jackson. He
oh yeah, that guy's huge.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's gonna be a great player too. He's just someone that's just been having a hard time lately, but we I think
hard time how? Just off the field or stuff off the field?
No, just off the field. I mean, he picks everything up really quick. He's a great kid. Everything. There's a few nuances here and there, but I think he's just really picking up on some things we're starting to get on to him about.
I remember National Signing Day. That was like the most excited I've ever seen your head coach, because once he found out that his letter came in, he was over the moon. And I'm sure it's like that with everybody.
Yeah.
And I want you to think about what it was like, making that call yourself to Dabo and thinking about whether or not you thought you'd get to the point you're at now.
I think I started making a decision to come here, and then just the thought of having to come and just fill some expectations they have for you. It's tough, but that's why they recruited you. So it's just one of those things.
Talking again with Mitch Hyatt, offensive line. I know that this was something, like I mentioned, the decision for you to come back, but the decision of the three-headed monster on the defensive side of the football, not just the fact that they come back, but that you have to practice against them a little bit more. Was that something that you were kind of a little bittersweet, I would say?
Yeah, that's perfect word to say. Saying to say is bittersweet. When they said that, I kind of like a sigh. I was like, oh, a whole another year of this, but it's still gonna get me better, and that's the best way to think about it. And then they're gonna get better. Same with that. So yeah, it's like having to go against them every day again, but it's gonna get me better. So it's helpful.
I know you start with firm, but then you get to go week 2 to one of the great college football atmospheres outside of Death Valley, I would say, in Texas A&M. That's the kind of game I'm sure that that's why you come to Clemson to play in big games like that.
Yeah, that's exactly why you come to a big school like Clemson, or a big football school like Clemson. Not that big of a school in general.
Yeah.
Just those atmospheres. I mean, it's like my freshman year playing Thursday night in Louisville, like that, like at Louisville. That was just like, that's why I came to Clemson, and this is another reason, because so they can schedule these types of games and just have that kind of competition.
Who does the best in par drills between you and the two defensive ends? Who do you think you take better between Clee or Austin?
That's really tough. They both.
Do they cheat first off?
Well, the thing about it's really it's day by day, because they're both different players, so I both have to kind of strategize differently. Like Austin always uses his arm length to his advantage, because his arms were freakishly long, like longest I've ever seen. And then Clee just come off the ball hard, so it's like two different kinds of mentality going at each. So I'm trying to strategize differently.
Mitch, good luck this year. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, Pelagic with the Tigers' big left tackle, Mitch Hyatt, who's been like a stone wall over there for those guys for 3 years. Want to give him one more good year before he hits to the NFL level. We'll come back with more of your phone calls, and we'll hear from the Gamecocks' DJ Wanham here on Sports Talk.
Now, Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
We're back. We are back with you here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. More of your phone calls coming up in just a moment. Founders Federal Credit Union is honoring our servicemen and women with Founders Military Mortgage. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/mortgage or at a Founders location where a qualified mortgage loan officer will help you through the application process. hear from Dennis Wanham, USC, DJ Wanham, coming up in just a little bit. So the state newspaper this evening has a story out on the Clemson Women's Clinic we've been talking about. There were over 3,000 women there, or I should say participants, and this was also being used as a fundraiser for cancer-related charities, and they raised a lot of money, which is a positive thing. But what's the story, of course, is what happened on the floor with some of the players, in particular Christian Wilkins. And they quote the new sports information director, Ross Taylor, as saying that the segment that's been put out on the internet is called Dancing with the Tigers. And he told the state that the 55-second video of Wilkins, that dancing was not a reflection of what happened throughout the event. He did not comment on the specific actions in the video. He said, quote, "I think what's been going around is certainly not indicative of what was actually going on." He pointed out that Cleveland Farrell was dancing with his mother out there. He said, "I think the winner was swag surfing." He said that video that's going around is certainly not indicative of what was going on the whole day. End of quote. Clemson, the story said, Clemson said Wilkins might have crossed a line with his performance, WIS-TV reported. Taylor also sought to diffuse any controversy over a photo shared on Twitter of Clemson football players standing around or posing while just wearing underwear. He said that photo came from a strength and conditioning portion of the ladies' clinic. Unable to bring heavy equipment from the weight room onto the floor at Little John, where the clinic was held, the participants improvised with a bodybuilding competition. Okay? So, according to Taylor, they raised $250,000, or at least $250,000 of the money raised went to the Greenville Health System to provide a mobile mammography van that can go around the state and help detect breast cancer. He said an additional $100,000 went to Oconee Hospital to fight breast cancer. So he did a lot of good things. There's no question about it. The intentions were great. The results there were great. Apparently, a lot of women had a great time. They were not bothered by anything that they saw. I'm not sure how many people were bothered by anything that they saw in person. It's just that what we're seeing on Twitter, I think, is something that Clemson has to be embarrassed about, because I do think that Wilkins went a little bit too far. You know, I have no problem really as an observer watching the part where he was walking around the chair with the lady in the chair, even stripping off the shirt. That's fine. Even doing the belly flops on the floor in front of her. But, you know, when he climbed on her lap, things got a little bit, I think, out of the norm there and crossing a line that maybe that's not the message. Despite all the great stuff that you were doing here, I don't think that's the message that Clemson wanted to send out there. And, you know, what you have to deal with, of course, is the social media backlash in every form, both in talk radio, talk television, Twitter, Instagram. This stuff's going to make the rounds and going to be on every website of rival fans all across the country who want to use it in a way to deride Clemson. Because let's face it, I mean, Clemson emits an image from its head coach on down of very strong religious beliefs and running a program with that kind of culture. And I don't think this fits that culture or those beliefs that they espouse.
There's a square.
I mean, just me looking at it,
there's a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And let's extrapolate from another comparison when we talk about college football on the field. Everybody says what? They get a visual image, especially early in the season, of a guy doing something fantastic, and suddenly he's near or at the top of the Heisman voting. Well, that can work another way too. If it's negative, that image sticks in people's heads.
Think
also.
about this, all right? Now, nothing illegal is going on here. But, when the NFL draft rolls around in April or May or June, whenever they have it now, whenever ESPN says we'll have it, and they start recapping Christian Wilkins' career amongst all his mighty highlights on the field, this is going to be brought back up.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
And the picture of whatever he was doing on the field with those players with his hands down there is going to be brought back up, and it's going to be an embarrassment. Sort of like, who was the big lineman out of Ole Miss who was going to be the number one pick or a high pick, and then all of a sudden,
Tunsil.
Yeah, and these pictures of him with marijuana apparatus
with the mask on.
Yeah, all of a sudden it pops up the day of the draft or a day before the draft, and he dropped like a rock.
It was a setup. Because whoever had it for a good while,
mm-hmm.
and they waited till they released it right before the draft.
All right, let's hit a couple more quick phone calls here, then we'll get to DJ Wanham here on Sports Talk. John and Greer, welcome in to Sports Talk on a Monday night. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Great.
I think that's a bunch of nothing about Clemson.
So you got no problem with it?
They want to make something out of nothing.
Have you seen it? Have you seen the video, the pictures?
No.
Oh, you got to take a look before you just say it's nothing. Take a look.
Well,
I mean, you're not doing yourself any favors by denouncing something before you even look at it, or denouncing the reaction to it before you even look at it.
Why do they even have the women's clinic?
Well, I mean, these are things that football teams have been doing for years now. It's a way to bring in a segment of your fans, to educate them and have some fun with them, and in Clemson's case, to raise a bunch of money.
Well, I mean, Clemson must be comfortable with Christian Wilkins out there.
What do you mean?
I mean, what are you saying? What did he do wrong?
Well, I think the fact that he got up on a lady's lap and began to react in, I think, sort of a sexual manner on the floor of Little John Coliseum in front of 3,000 women might have been a little bit across the line for something like that in that event.
Well, I don't think Clemson would have let him do that. I mean,
well, he did it. You got to go look at the video, man. You're talking in the dark. You need to go look at it before you comment on it, and then, tell me what you think. Let's go to Mark in Aiken next up on the program. Hello, Mark.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Listen, just a comment on that. My comment is this, Phil, and you can extrapolate on this. When are these young men, and I haven't seen the video, but just going by what you just said, I don't care if it's Christian Wilkins or some other young man or lady, or I don't care who it is. When are these athletes, when are they going to pay attention? You cannot do anything out in public that will not be filmed, photographed, anything of the sort. I don't care how innocent it may or may not be. You cannot do anything because of the social media and the way that it is. You are going to get plugged for it. And I mean, what's it going to take for these? I mean, it's a price you have to pay in the public eye, and something's got to be done.
All right, hang on 1 second. We'll come right back to you, and then we'll get to DJ Wanham back in a moment.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
And back to Mark in Aiken, let him finish up his comments. And the only thing I'll say, you were talking about video and pictures and all of that ending up on the internet and stuff like that. Well, if you look at the video of the dance by Christian Wilkins, I mean, the official Clemson football photographer is right there videoing the whole thing. So this is not like it was some sort of secret activity that somebody had to take video of, with a cloak and dagger situation and sneak it out on the internet.
Right, well,
I mean, they were celebrating this whole activity.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, my thing is this. I mean, these guys, I don't care if it's Clemson or any other university for that matter. I mean, if it's out in public and they know they're going to be filmed, regardless if it's that or with a phone, I mean, these guys have got to know they're walking on eggshells while they're there, and that's the price that they have to pay. Do you agree or disagree with that? And thanks for taking my call. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, they're public figures. Unfortunately, at a younger and younger age, these guys are becoming public figures. Once you start being recruited and getting offers, and then you start doing Twitter stuff, you become a public figure. So, everything you do is magnified and watched. And if you step out of bounds, it's going to end up, and somebody's there to catch it, it'll end up on social media. No doubt about it. Thank you very much. Appreciate the phone call. We've been promising comments from the Gamecocks' DJ Wanham. He spoke at SEC Media Days and spoke quite well, talking about the upcoming season.
Hey, DJ, just curious, as players, when you hear that former player like Torrey Gurley is guaranteed a win over Georgia, does that kind of thing bother you, or does it motivate you?
It doesn't bother me at all. It actually motivates us, just going harder in training camp. So it's going to be fun, leading up to that game.
What sort of changes have you noticed offensively, and what kind of challenges do those present to you defensively?
Most of the changes that I've noticed are the tempo. They go a lot faster than previous years. So that's probably one of the most challenges that I've facing so far.
I got two questions for you, okay? The first one, with your brother coming to South Carolina, just how exciting is that for you and your family?
Oh, it's very exciting having him with me, my little brother under my wing, but not too, can't be, too big brother. You got to let him venture out a little bit. So, it's pretty cool having him.
What are some pointers you've given him so far? How is he accustomed of getting comfortable on campus and all that?
He's coming along with it, waking up early, but the pointers I give him is just work hard, do your best in anything, and the coaches will, critique you and help you.
DJ, what have you worked most on? What has been your focus in the offseason as far as improving, and how good do you think this defensive line can be?
My biggest improvement was, working in the weight room and also focusing more on my technique. But, this defensive line, we're fast and physical. That's probably our what we follow by our standards. So, we're gonna do some big things this year.
After a 9-win season last year, do you guys kind of approach this season any differently? Is there more pressure?
It's not really much pressure. We just got to work harder than we did before. That's our main focus going into training camp.
DJ, Coach Muschamp was just in here and he talked about this season. He wants to see the D-line be able to put more pressure on the quarterback. When you hear Coach say that, how much does that motivate you to go out there and get it done?
It motivates me a lot, just working on my craft, all of the D-line guys getting together outside of practice, just building that chemistry together. It's going to be pretty good. So we got a lot of big shoes to fill for Coach Muschamp this year.
Yeah, I think Coach Peterson said in the spring that he wanted you to kind of step up and be more vocal with some of the younger guys. How have you kind of adapted to that? What's been maybe the hardest thing to do, learning how to become, I guess, more vocal?
Just being, consistent. You gotta do your best every day, so those guys will follow you in your footsteps. So I probably say that's probably one of the biggest, hardest things. But just having those guys and looking up to you is pretty fun. It's pretty cool.
Go over here to the right side, front row in the aisle.
DJ Will's talked a lot about the offensive line and its strength. He says he's got 6 really good ones, but they need to develop after that. Do you guys think you'll have to take it easy on the linemen in practice, considering how many injuries the line had last year?
Oh, of course not. We gonna go hard on them because we got to get them guys better. Also, they got to get us better. So, and also those young guys, they got to be able to step up and fill their shoes in if someone goes down. So.
When you kind of look back at sort of your South Carolina career and how far you come, when you arrived on campus, did you sort of think it would go like this, where you kind of carved out a role your first year, become a starter your second, and be in position to, come to an event like this as a team leader in your third?
I probably never imagine all the things that I'm doing and going to do. But, coming into campus, my main focus was just to work hard, do things on your own was probably one of my biggest things. So, and it's let it pay off, keep letting it pay off. So.
TJ, you and TJ Brunson have been together on campus all 3 years. Just can you talk about your relationship together and what kind of year you're expecting from him?
We have a great relationship. We actually were roommates our freshman year, so just having that chemistry, working together. We also have done things outside, working, building that chemistry is gonna be fun. Just having him back there is pretty good.
JT and Nick, since they've gotten in, what kind of veteran stability have they provided to the defense and maybe to the secondary when you guys are on the field doing stuff?
Just their experience, coming from different schools, we've gotten viewpoints from their schools and how they did things. So just having them guys come in it's like it helps us a lot.
Okay, DJ Wanham of USC. I would expect a spectacular year from him. He came such a long way. This is a guy that is proving the recruiting analysts wrong. Not a heavily touted guy coming out of high school. Don't know what his star rating was, but he didn't come to South Carolina with a great deal of fanfare or high expectations. He has just worked and made himself into a tremendous defensive end, fitting right in with what South Carolina likes to do with their defense. He gives them some speed off the edge, can get on the quarterback, and then should he have to turn and run somebody down, he's got the speed to do so. So I look for good things from him this year. You look at the Gamecocks defensive front, and you see Wanham and Kier Thomas and Javon Kinlaw and Aaron Sterling. You wonder, will that be good enough for them to provide the kind of pass rush that they have been lacking? These are guys now that are older. They've been through it a little bit. Maybe Shamik Blackshear steps up and gives them more. Maybe the junior college transfer, Jabari Ellis. I would think Brad Johnson is going to get more playing time and a chance to show what he can do. Is this defensive front and the depth going to be good enough to help them be better up front on defense?
That's going to be the key. I think in Wanham's case, sometimes, Phil, a coach has a position or he utilizes a guy and he finds the perfect fit. And it was Wanham. If Muschamp, I think, had to create a guy he said would play the buck, he found him in Wanham. It just seems like the position for him. The guy I'm interested in seeing this year, Shamik Blackshear. He is one of the reasons I think we always moan when we see somebody fall out of line. He's one of the reasons that coaches are so hard to just jettison a guy because you don't know when the wheels will turn. Here's a guy came in. Some people said he was a bad egg, including his high school coach. And now the switch has come on. He's undergone some problems, including getting shot. And what is ready to get his degree in December. And he's focused on playing his game. He said these 2 years are going to be my 2 years. And who's to say he can't because of the changes he's already made?
Well, he's a young man that football-wise hasn't done a whole lot since his junior year in high school. Coming out of his junior year when he committed to South Carolina, he was being highly praised as another Jadeveon Clowney type of football player, but had a lot of baggage with him and really couldn't separate himself from that for a long, long time. Apparently he has, and he's gotten things straight, and he's working hard, and he's kind of getting back, showing the talent that he had when he was at Bluffton High School, and he was a devastating pass rusher. And so maybe this year will be his breakthrough year. They certainly could use another guy coming off the edge and giving them somebody who can attack the quarterback. All right, that will do it. Thank you for the phone calls. It's been great hearing from you. And tomorrow night, we will be up at the Coaches for Charity events at the TD Convention Center in Greenville. Looking forward to all of that. We'll bring you as much as we can from the coaches before they go inside for their deal. Pro, thank you. Brian Leonard, thank you as always. Great job. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.